This episode of the Eskimo Empire podcast is brought to you by the Edmonton Community Foundation. The foundation acts as a bridge between donors and charities to help create a strong, vibrant community for generations to come. You can start an endowment fund yourself or with a group, and once it reaches 10,000, it can start distributing funds. You can hear how some of the funds get shared out on the Well Endowed podcast as well. For more information on the Edmonton Community Foundation, go to ecfoundation.org. Enjoy the show.
Hey, fellas, we ain't gonna ever back down from nobody. I don't care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied. If one of us goes down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight. So let's hit this field and bang them, bang them, bang them. Somebody, light me up.
Welcome to the Empire. It's the Eskimo Empire podcast.
This is Trevor Harris.
Hey, how you doing? This is number 58, Travis Bond.
This is Christoph Malumba Chimanga.
Hey there, this is your co-host, Kenny Stafford.
Hey, this is Ryan King.
Calvin McCarty.
And you are listening to...
You're listening to the Eskimos Empire.
Listening to the Eskimo Empire podcast.
The Eskimo Empire podcast. Hope you guys enjoy listening.
Welcome back to the Turf District for the Eskimo Empire podcast, and we are a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Kayla's already coughing. It's good that we've got things started early. I'm Andrew, and I'm joined by
I thought I covered it.
Superfan Mike and Commissioner Kayla. How are you guys? Nice. Okay.
It's a tickle.
You know, I was going to say the bad part is every time we do that right now, it's like everybody's like, whoa, wait a second. It's okay.
It's actually kind of beneficial in some ways, like, back off.
Yeah. Yeah. Kayla's trying to scare people away. It's perfect. Yeah. On the other hand, it's a great reason why we're doing this all by Skype. So how are you guys?
It's been good. It's been, kind of getting used to it, but eventually I guess it'll all... No, I'm just never going to get used to it. It's just... I need to get out with people, and sitting around in the basement is getting kind of old. But at least I'm surrounded by green and gold. So. Yeah,
that is a good thing. That is a good thing. I know. At least when I come down in here and I get to be in the Turf District, it feels a little more like, okay, I can just kind of relax a little bit. But I'm with you, man. It's starting to get hard not being around people. And I go to work every day, and still it's like, yeah, it's all the same people, and most of those people are just pissing me off now. So I gotta where's my other people? All my coworkers are listening to this. No, it's just, it's different, right? And it's sometimes a little hard to kind of wrap your head around.
For sure, but. I think that eventually we're going to start, phasing back into what we were before. I don't know if we'll ever get all the way back, certainly not in the next year or two, but even if we can get to the point where you can see a couple of people at a time, I think that's going to make a huge world of difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get to at least the point where I can shake somebody's hand. Like, let's start with that. Yeah. Because I've already warned both of you that when the time comes and we're allowed to hug, you better be careful. It's all coming out at you guys. There's going to be a lot of hugging.
There's the title of the podcast.
There it is. Yeah. Well, I started that early. Let's get to our guests and change the topic right at this moment. Joining us once again, a third time on the show is a featured fan. Welcome back to the show, Chad. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Hey, if I were to cough, I'd have to stay home from work, so I'm not going to force it.
Okay. It's probably a good choice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know that it's a little different. There's no Franklin this time, but I am glad that you were joining us.
Yeah, I still feel the pride of having the top downloaded podcast for a while, but I know that's all me, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with anybody tuning in to hear me squeal like a schoolgirl. No, it had everything to do with you were here, and that was the big ticket.
It was a big draw.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. How was Mother's Day for everybody in this different atmosphere?
Great.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, obviously, we had a lot less of the going out and doing stuff with Jedi, who was okay with being inside this time, but she's getting a little squirrely herself. And then, other than that, then talking to moms and grandmothers and that sort of thing. So at least we have video chat to do that.
Yeah, thank goodness. What about on your side, Chad?
I was pretty quiet. My mom figures out her Facebook on her tablet. That's about the extent of it. So, I don't have to worry about video chats or getting in trouble that way. But I had a nice chat with her. We saw her. We went down Easter weekend and dropped some stuff off for them at their door. So, I had a chat from the driveway to the door, and it was nice seeing them then. So,
awesome. And Kayla, how's Mama Jedi?
Mama Jedi's great. I live with her now, so I see her every day.
So did you make her breakfast
gone.
or something, or did you? What you?
Yeah. Well, Saturday we hung out all day and we went to the garden center or Bonnie Doon greenhouse. You can order online and then pick up.
Yep.
So we went there, and then we usually just go for a drive, pick up a coffee, and just drive around and get out as much as you can.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then on Sunday, made breakfast and dinner and just kind of hung out. And just spent time with her. Not that I don't do that every day anyway.
That's still good. She's still fun to hang out with. It's all good. So,
she's pretty dope.
Yep. And here we, I did the traditional brunch after Nicole got home from work. And then when she went to bed, I ripped over and dropped some off for my mom. And like you said, kind of chatted at the door for a few minutes. and then you just kind of come back and the biggest gift I could give to Nicole that day was hopefully a few hours of sleep after working. So tried to do that, and that made it okay. But it's a little late, but happy Mother's Day to everybody in the Empire and our CFL family. There's lots of moms that we've got to know, and great moms. So I want to definitely throw that out there. Chad, we talked a little bit about it on the YouTube live, but how are you holding up through all this?
I'm doing well. I mean, I'm still going to work Monday to Friday, so at least getting out of the house and being around other people that I'm not with 24/7. It's nice. Definitely a change of pace on the way we do things at the bank. So some challenges there. We're getting used to the new normal, but a lot of people still don't get that it's not business as usual, and don't understand the way that we're operating. And so it's a lot of digital, a lot of screening at the door, mobile check-in type stuff. But I think it's nice getting out. And, I'm one of those guys that as soon as the golf course is open, I took advantage of that. Just have some sense of normalcy and get outside and, just breathe a little bit as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it's good. That is a good way to get out for sure. Absolutely. I know the last couple of weeks when it's been nice, the boys and I have been heading over to the field every evening, and whether it's Nerf guns or throwing a football or kicking a soccer ball or something, just something to be, outside together and also burn a little energy off so that hopefully there's some sleep in the evening. That's Do you know anything about that,
Good luck
Superfan?
with that.
Yeah.
About sleep? No.
Yeah.
About getting children to go to sleep? Also no.
Okay. Well.
So, yeah.
Good to be consistent.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you can use the old standby. It's like, hey, does this smell like chloroform to you? But other than that, I got nothing.
Yeah, the one of the greatest all-time mock ads on YouTube is for nap time, I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's
No.
The kid is screaming or whatever, and then they basically just spray at them, and it makes them go to sleep. And then the doctor's looking at it, and he looks at it like, this is chloroform. It's all done as an actual ad for nap times, which helps you put the kids to sleep. Anyway, I get a harder laugh out of it now than I did even back before I was a parent, but it is pretty funny.
It's like Arrested Development. They had the Forget Me Nows.
Yes.
Yeah. Sleep. Just sleep now.
Sleep now. Yes. Forget Me Nows. I forgot about that. Oh, that's awesome. Are you guys watching any of the games that have been on TV? Or Mike, have you been delving back into your DVD collection?
Yeah, I've been watching as much on TV lately. Just rules don't always line up, but I go over to my cabinet and I've got about 500 games to pick from. So, just been throwing some in there. I watched an '85 game the other day, which was kind of fun because we won.
Nice.
It was
Spoiler.
a game with. Yeah, I know. It was a game versus Calgary late in the '85 season. Matt Dunnigan got knocked out of the game with he had his bell rung. I think they called it back then.
Of course.
We take it a little more seriously now. And we were down, I think, by 10 or 12 points and came back and won by 8. So not bad fourth quarter.
Not bad at all. Very nice. So if anybody has watched...
Any games, do you just do the Netflix thing where you just look at them for 3 hours and then finally pick one before bedtime?
No, I have a spreadsheet. I sort my columns by wins. I'm like, all right, which one did we win? Okay. And then I just figure out a decade and I'll just pick a random one from there.
Nice.
All about the spreadsheets.
I think the best part of that comment, Chad, is that we all understood exactly what you meant. We just scroll through and then, oh, wait, yeah. For those of you that have watched the YouTube live already, that big wall of DVDs on Mike's wall, that is his nerd hole. So now we can get back into there. Now, we were, this past weekend, we were, of course, supposed to have our live show, and we're coming up on what should have been training camp. So we need to talk about stuff that's a little more pleasant. So let's talk again a little bit about Justin Renfro and how good that interview was last week and talking to that guy.
He's so fun.
Yeah, he's a stellar guy in general. I mean, he was a great player. If you certainly watched him play with BC last year and in Calgary before that. But yeah, I could sit and listen to him talk all night.
Absolutely. Chad, did you get to listen to the interview?
I did, yeah. He definitely really personifies what the CFL is all about. Having, making his apparel and his logos to reward people for contributing to, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, stuff of that sort. I mean, truly just a, CFL player through and through.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. Did you guys see that the new hoodies are actually up now on JR Sports?
Yes, they are.
They are. And he said that all the money that's made from that is actually going to masks to get to people on the front line. So... great cause once again, and those hoodies are something else. The black hoodies with the camo hood. Oh my goodness, yeah. I might be getting one for Nathan because Nathan has decided that the greatest character in all the Avengers is Hawkeye, and he wears basically vest sweaters, so that would be like right up his alley. So we'll see how that goes. But they look awesome, so I highly recommend checking those out.
I need that sleeveless one.
Oh, I know.
So bad.
It's so awesome. It's so awesome. I know. I'm gonna probably have to order one myself, although I don't know that I'll ever wear it because I would look crazy. But still, I would like to.
Crazy good.
Exactly.
Thank you. I'm gonna go. Sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Nice. All right, let's talk about a little CFL news. Now, the story broke when we were recording the last time that the CFL is asking for up to $150 million from the government. Obviously, it's got a couple of different levels based on kind of what happens with the season and where things hit. And we know that Randy did meet with some members of the federal government just a few days ago, and hit and miss as far as how that actually went. But one of the big things that came out of that was him saying that there would be likely no season. So Chad, what's your kind of initial response to this entire thing?
Not a big surprise as far as the likely scenario, just on how everything's been going. What did kind of take me aback a bit was the number that he's asking for. I'm having trouble grasping how that number comes out, how that adds up. But
okay, that's fair. I totally get it. Superfan, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to have seen them involve the CFLPA a bit more. They need to make this more of a partnership. I think those numbers might be more if they were paying all the players for a season, but I don't think they will be, are they? So
don't know. Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure that works. I think all the clubs are going to have to decide what they are going to do for people that have paid for season tickets or advanced tickets for games, certainly season tickets, because if they've spent some of that money anticipating it was going to be played, if they have to refund some of this money, I mean, assuming people don't want to carry it forward to 2021,
right?
That could be a bit of trouble for some of these clubs for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Kayla, what are your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I have a lot, but I don't know.
It's okay.
I don't know. I think to just already have there's not going to be a season. I think that's just jumping to worst case scenario like so soon when, I know the NHL has been talking about starting off their playoffs again for some reason. So I think that jumping to worst case scenario right now, instead of maybe thinking of creative options to help the CFL rather than just kind of, it feels like we're either going to completely float or flounder rather than thinking of, okay, well, what if we do it this way or that way? Like, I'm not behind the scenes, but that's just how it's coming across. And, like, are there options where fans can participate? Like, if the CFL's in trouble, can the fans do anything? Are there different avenues to explore rather than just going to the government? And maybe I'm naive, but, I mean, there's got to be some creative ways. I mean, different sports have been talking about not having fans in the arena, which sucks, but it's an option. So I just want to hear more exploration.
Okay, one of the things that, and I agree with you absolutely. I know that Ryan King was on the radio with Reed Wilkins this week, and he was talking about how they wouldn't even break even if they did a game without fans in the stands. So, and that's from a CFLPA point of view, not specifically a team point of view. Did you hear anything about that, Mike, or did you kind of follow that at all?
Yeah, I was reading it as well, and I think that most of us can understand that this is a gate-driven league. It's not like the NFL where they get $1 billion a year just from video game rights, right, let alone broadcast, let alone all the other merchandising and everything else they've got going on. We do get some money from the merchandising, but essentially it's bums and seats that are helping fund this league. With some money from TSN and a few other promotions. But if we don't have people in the stands, I don't know what's going to happen. It would be tough even having people in the stands because you're going to have a lot of people that aren't going to want to be that close to other people. And it's hard to spread them out because if you have season tickets in a spot and someone else has season tickets right in front of you or right beside you, who gets those seats if they're going to spread everybody out? So they've got a lot of things they're going to have to look at. But not having people there at all, I think would be really tough to make that happen.
Yeah,
I just think that they need to explore some options. Oh,
absolutely. I think they need to be creative. I mean, if they can start selling it doesn't have to be like, if they want to raise some money, why don't you sell experiences, right? So they had some things with the women's dinner or the annual dinner where you could spend some money to get your picture with the team photo. It wouldn't be the official photo, but you get the picture of the team with you in it, which I think would be phenomenal if you could get 10 of those out kind of thing and selling them for however many hundreds each and start raising money that way. Really think outside the box on how this team can leverage its brand and its players working in concert with the PA to raise some money.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. They need to work together on this. Like, it can't just be CFL and CFLPA. It has to be a joint, they have to work together. I'm sorry. Like, if you want this to succeed, work together. Do it!
They both have something to lose, right? So
exactly.
I think you have to give credit to, Commissioner Ambrosi as well, though. I mean, the fact is, there's a lot of other businesses asking for money, so he's running a business at the end of the day. Yep. So why not take a shot, right?
You have to.
Sure.
You have to, but you can't just.
And you have to make it sound the worst case scenario, or they're going to say, "Oh no, you'll be okay," right? Oh yeah, you only need a little bit. We might only need this much. You got to make it sound really bad, really fast, so that there's some urgency on getting that done. But I agree with both of you. It's what other options are out there as opposed to government money.
Yeah, and I wonder too if it was a little bit of a, and I hate to use this word, but typical like negotiation tactic where, you go in asking for this much and you're happy if you end up with like half of it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
And then everybody kind of feels like there's a win. So I agree. The biggest part, I think, with what you said, Chad, was they need to come with a little better plan. They need to come with, this is how the money is going to be spent. This is why we need this money. This is how we need to work that. I would like to kind of see more of that side of it before we get too much into, okay, well, each team needs, $6 million. Do you know what I mean? Like, or whatever it happens to be. Obviously that's a lot bigger number than that's a lot smaller number than what the big ask that they were asking for. So, I think I agree with everyone. They need PA involvement. I'm glad to hear that they're back at the table talking, and I hope that that'll actually turn into something where they can come up with some type of plan and then go back to the government. The one thing that I will say, a lot of people going back and forth, obviously, with getting any government money is just this is like 9 medium-sized businesses running, right? So yes, the CFL overall looks over everything, but when you see things that are going to the the arts, which they should be getting, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be getting something. This is another one that isn't billion-dollar business, like you were saying, Mike. So I think you're right, and I don't mind the ask. I just need a little more clarity on what they're asking for. And of course, I'm completely biased because I just want to make sure that I have football at some point, whether it's this year or next.
Right.
Well, and it's not just that too. Like, football is just as important as something else to somebody else, right? So for people to say, well, it's just a sports league. Well, that's not true. It's maybe to you, it's just a sports league, but look at the people who are getting laid off. Look at the fans. Like, it's so much more than just, it's a sports league, so you shouldn't get money. Well, no, if you're dumb, maybe, but if you actually look at it,
wow,
it's a business.
Oh, there is that.
Yeah, Kayla's just out shooting guns now. That's you gotta turn the video podcast back.
Those stupid trolls, you know how they are. But it's just like, oh my gosh, just you go back in your hole and stay there.
Go back in your nerd
Not
hole?
even your nerd hole.
No, that's a troll hole.
Troll hole, that's completely different. That's a totally different conversation that is inappropriate for this conversation, for this podcast. Okay, so $1 million idea right here. We have a CFPN telethon for the CFL. Who's in?
Me.
I'm in.
Yep, absolutely. We could do a 24-hour telethon, straight podcasting, all on YouTube Live with continuous errors in who can be heard by audio because Andrew's running the audio. But still, we could all get together and at the same time we could all say, where do we want to go? Higher. That's right. We could
I
make
feel
it.
like we can hit a target really fast just to pay to stop talking.
Wait a second.
Wait, what?
I would do it.
Yeah. Wait, what? What just happened here? Yeah. All right. One of the questions that we actually got was from Ed, Penguin Ed, who's been on the show before. He says, what if no government money is there? Are we worried that we still have a CFL? Chad,
You're always worried at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Chad, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's always a worry there. It's not a billion-dollar corporation. But I think the one thing working against the CFL right now that really leaves a lot of that is how top secret all of that information always is. Team to team, market to market, there's no real consistent reporting. Numbers are spun in different ways. So, you have to wonder, how bad teams really are off. You have a community-owned team like Edmonton that turned a profit, year over year. You have a team like Saskatchewan who has higher revenue but a lower profit. So you got to wonder where that money's going and what's being reported there. And there's always the worry about places like Toronto and, even BC to some degree with, hopefully they're turning it around. But there's always those worries with some of those, on the bubble teams on what's truly going on. Granted, they're backed by MLS, but, how much money are they willing to put in there?
Yeah, it's fair. Kayla, what do you think of that?
Oh no, like Chad completely nailed it. And of course there's always going to be a concern and a worry, but jumping the gun and just like saying no money, no business, I guess I'm an optimistic person, so I can't just think that way.
That's fair.
I always think there's some hope somewhere.
Yes. Superfan?
This league has gone through a ton of, being on death's doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
The 1987 Grey Cup, they weren't sure if they were going to actually have the game.
Yep.
Because they were afraid they might be out of money. In the mid-90s, they were so desperate for money, they started thinking, hey, let's get some American teams in this league playing Canadian football. And for, 3 years, they had that. But, it wasn't obviously sustainable. It always seems to, there's a great book called Canadian Football League, the Phoenix of football, professional football.
Awesome.
Phenomenal book because it keeps rising from the ashes of almost, going under. It happened in the 60s. It happened in the 70s. I'm hoping that, we haven't run out of lives, and this is not our 9th one, but, I think that this hopefully will get enough fans up there that will speak their minds to their respective MLAs or MPs, saying that, no, this is important to us. It employs a lot of Canadians. It entertains a lot of Canadians. It has exposed a lot of Canadians to Canadian music artists. And we've talked about the Beaches or the Sheepdogs or many other bands that have gotten exposure through being on the Thursday night concert series or maybe seeing them at Grey Cup week or even at the Grey Cup itself. So there's more to it than just a bunch of professional athletes playing a game.
Exactly.
So I'd like to think I pointed to a bunch of people in the last week or two. There was the CFL Traditions DVD series, and at the very end of the series, they have first Pinball Clemens and then Ron Lancaster talking about how important it is because it is something that unites this entire country together for 6 months of the year and even beyond now. So it's something we shouldn't take for granted and we shouldn't let slip away.
Oh my gosh, Mike! I need a tissue. Like that was beautiful.
that was bad. I can't.
Can
get
that
any
be the
better.
title of the podcast? I need the tissue.
You shush.
The title should.
You ruined it.
Oh my God, Mike! I need a tissue. That's the title of the podcast right there. Yeah,
there it is.
I hate you all.
You love
That's
us.
fair.
You love us. Well, on that, I can't top that. So let's take a very quick break, and then we will come back with the all-time depth chart in the Eskimos history moment.
This is Jason Tucker, and you listen to the Eskimo Empire Podcast.
You can join the Empire online.
Find us at eskempire.ca.
Check out all the new blogs and then follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
For more history, follow at Esks History on Twitter.
And even more of my pics on Esk Empire Photo.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to help the pod grow. Thanks again for listening. Let's get back to the show. This episode is also brought to you by The Loop, a new podcast from CBC Edmonton. Host Tara McCarthy of Edmonton AM takes you behind the scenes every week, sharing the details that don't make it into a typical radio or TV story. There's always more to the story and more to learn about our city, and that's what The Loop is for. A great new podcast to join the Edmonton ranks, and we will have a trailer for you at the very end of the show. You can find The Loop on the CBC Listen app or wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can also find it online at cbc.ca/Edmonton. Let's get right to it, superfan. It is time for the Eskimos History Moment.
Let's hear you cheer and holler for a mighty famous team. Let's hear you roar, you know what, for a team that's on the beat. Our voices rise up to the skies, the fans are glad to scream. We love those Eskimos.
Welcome back to the Esks History Moment. This off-season, we are building the ultimate Eskimos depth chart as voted on by the fans of this podcast and, of course, the Edmonton Eskimos. This poll runs every 2 weeks and selects players from 1975 to 2019. But what about the players from before those years? Working with good friends of the podcast who were around in the early days of listening to our heroes on the radio and watching on early TV, we have put together a separate roster featuring only those players to create the Ernie Pismo Rasco Memorial All-Star roster. This week, we look at the best coaches the Eskimos have seen in their first 25 years back in Canadian football. Unlike the coaching rosters of today, coaches often only had 1 to 3 assistants plus a head coach. In the 1940s and 50s, the head coach was responsible for the offensive and defensive backfield, while they had an assistant who handled the 7-man line on both sides of the ball. By the 1960s, they added a second assistant who handled the backfield, allowing the head coach to focus on the overall coaching strategy. And by the 1970s, you saw offensive and defensive coaches being separate men. And sometimes you even got 2 on each side of the ball.
Whoa.
For our list, we are looking at just men who were head coaches for the Green and Gold from 1949 through 1974. With much respect for those assistants that toiled away endlessly beside their head coaches, we will perhaps look at those players and coaches another time. The first person on our list is a man who coached a single season in Canadian football, but became a legend south of the border. He introduced to Canadian football what was a radical concept at the time, known as the split T offense, where offensive linemen would stand a few feet apart instead of the usual shoulder to shoulder. The third coach in Esks history, Darrell K. Royal, came to the Eskimos after only a few years coaching in the college ranks, and his first head coaching role was with Edmonton, hired at the young age of 28 years old. Royal had played for the legendary Bud Wilkinson at the University of Oklahoma in the late 40s, where Bud had invented the split T offense that would devastate defenses everywhere. Royal was also a stark contrast to his predecessors in Frank Filchock, who was more of a throwback draw players in the dirt man, and Anna Stukas, who relied on tactics and formation from the 1930s when he was a player. Royal's Eskimos went 12-4 that year and finished first in the West for the first time. They beat Winnipeg in the first game of the best-in-3 Western Final, but sadly lost the third and deciding game 30-24, leaving fans everywhere to wonder what might have been. Royal was hired back to coach at Mississippi State for the 1954 season, the college where he was before 1953, and as a parting gift, tipped off the Eskimos executive about a stellar split T wizard who could really run that type of offense, the fast freight from Mississippi State, Jackie Parker. With a vacancy in the coaching ranks and a brand new offense that they wanted to continue with given its domination of the league, the Eskimos hired the second man on our coaching list, one that had coached Royal under Wilkinson in the late 40s through the early 50s, Frank Pop Ivy. Ivy had played as an all-star tight end at Oklahoma in the late 1930s and had a solid career in the NFL for the Pittsburgh Pirates, the precursor to the magnificent Steelers Football Club, and the Chicago Cardinals, who would later move on to Arizona. After his 8-year career as a player, he returned to the Sooners to apprentice under Wilkinson and really steep himself in the split-D offense. When Coach Royal left Edmonton, the Eskimos snatched him up for their first head coaching position, and it paid off in dividends, as the Eskimos captured first place again in 1954, on their way to their first ever Grey Cup victory. Ivey introduced such innovations to Canadian football as the twin fullbacks formation, the quick snap, and something he called the lonely quarterback formation, or as it's better known now, the shot. Ivey took his Eskimos to the Grey Cup his first 3 years in the league and finished all 4 years he was in the CFL with his club in first place. His record as a coach in the regular season was an astonishing 50 wins and 14 losses, the best winning percentage in the history of Canadian football. After Ivey, the Eskimos' fortunes waned over the years, missing the playoffs for the first time since their inaugural season in 1962, and not even appearing in the Grey Cup for 13 years after the 1960 season. In 1970, a bright young Eskimo assistant was elevated to the top spot after Coach Neil Armstrong was fired, and he won the Anis Stukas Trophy as the top coach in Canadian football in his rookie season, Ray Yauch. Yauch came to the Eskimos in 1966 as a backfield coach under Armstrong, the same year that the Eskimos made the playoffs again for the first time since 1961. The Esks would be eliminated in 3 consecutive West semifinals before missing again in 1969, which proved to be the last straw for his bench boss, and he was given the reins to try and take the team out from the sad 1960s into the hopeful 1970s. The 1970 squad went 9-7, good for second place, and enough for Yauch to win the Stukas Trophy. But 1971 saw a lack of quarterbacking doom the squad, where they were 1-10 nearing the end of the season, when an NFL airlift brought in Bruce Lemmerman, Sam Scarborough, and Gene Foster, which allowed the team to rip off 5 straight wins to give hope for 1972. 1973 saw the team finish in first place and return to the Grey Cup game for the first time in over a decade, a feat they repeated for 3 straight years, culminating in a Grey Cup win in their 3rd try. Yauch helped lay the foundations for the dynasty team of the late 1970s, bringing on such legends as Dave Cutler, Larry Highbaugh, Tom Wilkinson, Dave Fennell, Dan Kepley, George McGowan, and a host of other players who have made their way onto our vintage Jeff Dart and the Wall of Honor. Yauch went on to coach the Blue Bombers after his time in Edmonton, but he never again reached the lofty heights he had in green and gold. There are many other coaches we could have included on this list, including Frank Vilchok, who we featured in an Esks History moment last year, Eagle Keys, who took the team to the 1960 Grey Cup after going to 2 Grey Cups as a player, and several other assistants who went to the top jobs for other teams like Cliff Spiegel, Dan Edwards, Joe Spencer, Dave Skrine, and Joe Zaleski. But the ones we did include were the cream of a rich crop, and without whom we may not have had such a golden Eskimos history.
Fancy. That was very well done.
Sometimes I don't know if you just froze, and
fun.
that's why.
Maybe.
It went silent. Like, are you frozen or?
Too many mojitos.
That's all, folks. Yeah. Little Porky Pig after that.
Oh, if we only had the rights, I would.
If only.
Yeah, that'd be outstanding. Well done again, Superfan. That was great. I love hearing about some of these old coaches because a lot of them I know the name, but I don't know anything more than just the name.
Yeah, I think Yauch, some people might be a little more familiar with, being he was in the 70s and won that Grey Cup in 75. But yeah, the other guys, I mean, it's the 50s, right? So it's even older than me.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. And now this week's winners, of course, you went over them all on the YouTube Live. But briefly tell us who was the winners in the coach department for the fan vote and the media vote.
Yeah, so we had a lot of people voting on this one. 100% of the people that voted all picked Hugh Campbell.
Of course.
Again, not much of a surprise. He was with the league with the Eskimos as a head coach for 6 years. Took us to the Grey Cup all 6 times, winning the last 5.
Wow, crazy.
Which is pretty hard to beat. You really can't say much about the man that hasn't already been said. And we did talk a little more at length in the YouTube live broadcast, but he was kind of an obvious one.
Yeah, absolutely.
He left in 82. In 83, we had a guy who lasted a whole 8 games before getting fired and got replaced by the second guy on our list. And that's someone who was already a legend in the city, and that's Jackie Parker.
Yeah.
Or as he preferred to be known, Jack. In fact, if you talk to any of the players who played under him from that 1983 to 87, they all refer to him as Jack Parker because he did not like being called Jackie, apparently. So,
oh, really? Wow.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
so he was
different. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think it's just because Jackie is a much younger sounding name. When he was a player and he was a young man in his 20s, I guess that makes sense. But by that point, he was much older in his 50s, and I think Jack sounds a little better.
More authoritative.
Also wanted to separate like coach versus player. Like, no, I'm a coach now.
Yeah, entirely possible. He was with the team halfway through 83 through the first 2 games of 1987 where he had to retire due to health problems. That 87 team did go on to win the Grey Cup that year. And as we said on the YouTube Live, that the players who were on that 87 team all refer to themselves as Jack's team because he built that to win that Grey Cup that year. Last up on the list is, again, the winningest head coach in Eskimos history, and that's Ron Lancaster. Ronnie was with the team 1991 to 1997, of course, taking us to the 1993 Grey Cup and the 96 Grey Cup. We almost won if the referees would have paid attention to the fact that was a fumble.
I love how you bring it up slightly differently each time. Yeah, no.
Well, I will bring it up every time.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair,
the
that fumble resulted in a field goal for the Argos, and we lost by 6, but still, I don't care.
Yes,
yeah. So he was with the team until 1997, as I said, and then he went to Hamilton, where he went to 2 more Grey Cups in 97 and 98 and 99, winning the 1999 one. So, we're not a little bitter. But 3 really solid head coaches in that list. A lot of wins between them, and I don't know if you could ask for much more than that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then moving on to the offensive side of the ball, the offensive coaches, coordinators, whatever you want to call them. They were called different things back in the day. The first one was, again, part of that 5-in-a-row dynasty era. In fact, he was only with the team for 5 years, and that's Cal Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Cal joined the team out of, he was the offensive coordinator for Montreal in 77, winning that Grey Cup. So he's probably the only coach who's won 6 consecutive Grey Cups.
Wow.
Which is not bad.
Yeah, he did all right.
I don't think you'll see anyone else do that. Yeah, we did mention on the YouTube Live that the Eskimos did score 2,572 points in 5 seasons while he was there, which was almost 100 points better than the second-place teams in that period each year. So absolutely outstanding domination of that team there. So he did go on to the Bombers after that, and he was with them from 83 to 96 until the Eskimos once again got him fired by beating them 68-7 in the West semifinal.
Which is a great game.
It's a fun game to watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wonderful to watch.
The second and last offensive coordinator on our list is a bit controversial, I thought. A lot of people are not really fond of this man now, but I think it's more for his head coaching and GMing than his offensive coordinator. That's Danny Machocha, who was with the team as the OC from 2002 through the 2005 season, where he did share the duties that last year with Ron Lancaster's son, R.D. Lancaster. He again took us to the Grey Cup 3 times in 4 years. That's pretty stellar. He didn't have the gaudy numbers that maybe Cal Murphy's teams did, dominating the league like that, but it's hard to argue that kind of success when you can be in the Grey Cup 3 times in 4 years.
No kidding. No kidding. I'm actually a little bit surprised as well, like especially for the fan vote, with how there is some vitriol when it comes to Machocha. But as an offensive coordinator, I mean, he was very good.
Yeah, I mean, he was Ricky Ray's first offensive coordinator when he came into the league. Same with Jason Tucker. Those guys did it right. So, you know.
They were okay.
All right, so let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. So we've got two defensive coordinators. The first one, not surprisingly, was also during that 5-in-a-row era, and that's Don Matthews. The Don, as he was kind of known, joined the team in 1977 with Hugh Campbell. He had no real experience as a DC before that point. So, again, a lot of people in the news at the time were wondering who this Matthews guy is. He had no CFL experience whatsoever. But he did all right for himself. His defense in 1978 finished in third in the league, but which is still good for first in the West. And after that, from 79 to 82, they were first in points against for the entire league, with an average of 275 points against per season, which was about 50 points better than the second place teams over that time. So not too bad. He did go on to be the head coach of BC in 83. Again, just a testament to Hughes' way to find talent that his coordinators went to head coaching positions. He came back in 89, and that was, again, a massive domination. He allowed 302 points against in 18 games. The second place team was 428 points against, so a full 126 points better than second place team. Yeah. Like I said, he went to BC at that point. He's won 5 head cups as a head coach, but he won 5 in a row with the Eskimos, so not too bad.
Good pick.
And the last guy on our list, Rich Stubler, a guy who did a lot of innovations for defenses, especially lining the defenses up further back from the line, allowing them to see a little better. And again, the results kind of speak for themselves. He's been sort of known as a pioneer in the bend, don't break defenses, where he gives you a lot of yards between the 20s, but then stiffens up and forces you to kick field goals or turn the ball over. He was with us from 91 to 95. 98 to 99, and again in 2011. And he's just a guy that when you think of classic modern defenses, Rich Stubler is a guy that comes to mind a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't argue can't argue with that at all. He was
that's well right.
known in CFL defenses in general, not just us.
Exactly. Well, you know who can argue, and that's the media. So
they could. Yes.
Yes.
I believe they did argue. Yes.
Of course. Yeah, we have been running the parallel vote with the media. So, of course, members of the podcast, members of the radio and TV and print media have also been sort of giving their opinions on this. So we did have, in each category, we had a different result, which is kind of interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
For head coach, of course, we had Campbell and Lancaster. Again, when you've won that many games between them, it's hard not to include them. But instead of Jack Parker, the media just barely elected Chris Jones.
Really?
Again,
interesting.
Yeah. Maybe not too surprising when he had, 26 wins in 2 seasons, appearing in the West Final in 1 year and then winning the Grey Cup the next year. He did leave a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths the way he left.
You don't say.
But it's hard to argue the result. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's the Chris Pronger of Canadian football.
That got Chad going. There's a good one. Yeah,
exactly. Moving on to the offensive coordinator position, Cal Murphy also made the list. However, instead of Danny Machocha, we had Adam Rita winning that one by a single vote.
Wow.
Adam Rita was only with the team for 1 year, again, 1993. We won that Grey Cup that year, which is pretty good, and is probably most famous, after the fact, for installing a type of naked bootleg that Damon Allen ran to perfection in that 93 Grey Cup.
Right, and that is the one that they ended up calling the Sally Ran, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, people that don't know, Sally Rand was a fan dancer, an exotic dancer back in the 20s or even before that. And it's just the way she would move her fans behind her back. Damon would do that with the football. So it just disguised where things were.
Awesome.
You're wondering where I was going with this, I'm sure. Yeah. So last up, we've got sort of the defensive coordinator position. Once again, Don Matthews made that list. Again, when you're playing in that 5 in a row era, it's kind of hard not to make this list.
Yeah.
But then instead of the Rich Stubler making the list, it was Chris Jones again making that
Interesting.
list. Again, he finished first in points against in both the seasons he was head coach and defensive coordinator here in Edmonton. Very aggressive defense, which a lot of people liked, and the media seemed to reward him for it.
Wow, that's crazy. Like, I don't think we've had one this to this point where we've had that much difference.
No, I think this is definitely the most. We've had some where it's been exact, but mostly there's been like maybe one person that's different.
Yeah,
this is the first time there's 3 differences out of 7 players or coaches.
Yeah, that's really cool. Oh my goodness. So Mike, we have reached the final week of the depth chart.
We sure have.
And you have left the Mac Daddy for the last one. So tell us what we're going to be all toiling over the next 2 weeks.
All right. Well, starting Tuesday morning, we are going to have the opportunity to get your votes in. Remember, every time you vote, every round you vote in, and only vote once per round, please, enters you in a contest to win prizes. We do have some prizes here. We'll be announcing them in 2 weeks. One of the things is going to be a poster that we're going to make with the depth chart, with photos of all the winners on it, as well as there's some gift cards and some other things in there. But we're going to be picking 3 quarterbacks from the many quarterbacks we have had in Eskimos history from 75 to present. There are a lot of amazing players in there. So some Hall of Famers are not going to make this list.
Yeah, it is going to be some difficult choices. And for the people who listen to this, and I mean, obviously we have, sang the praises of Mike Riley over the last few years, and I have a feeling he'll get a few votes, but then you go back, and I know you listed this on YouTube Live, but you go back and do that run from 77 through till 94, and it's just that, like, how do you pick only 3 out of just all of those guys? There's 6 guys there that could all make the list. It's crazy.
Oh, even more. I mean, you think about it, because back to 70, because it starts in 75, and in 75 we had Lemmerman and Wilkinson. 78 we added Moon. 83 we added Dunnigan. 84 we added Damon Allen. 87 we had Tracy Ham. We went back to Damon Allen after Ham for 93 and 94. In 1996, we had Danny McManus. Then, we had Jason Moss, Ricky Ray. I'm skipping over a few, obviously, but they are going to get some votes too, I'm sure.
Yep.
I'm sure someone's voting for Nealon Green.
Someone is.
I don't know who. Marcus Crandall. Yeah. And then, like you say, Mike Riley, he's going to get some votes. James Franklin's getting at least 1 vote.
One very emphatic vote. Yeah. That's right. Yes.
And there's a lot of people that love Trevor Harris, right? So
that's true. Yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting vote. I'm excited for this one, and excited and nervous at the same time because I've been dreading it for a while. But we will promote that one. So get your votes in over the next few weeks, and we will announce everything in just a couple of weeks' time. Very exciting. All right, now we didn't have any other Empire cues this week, but Chad, I wanted to go back to a couple of questions that we have been talking about over the last few weeks. One being, who is your, if you just had to pick one all-time favorite Eskimo player, who would that be?
I mean, it's short. I'd have to say probably Mike Pringle overall.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
probably
sense.
Close second was Nate Kuhorn, but yeah.
All right, then that's cool. Now you had a different connection with Nate.
I did.
Yes, because you were training with him, right?
Yeah, I still I trained with him for a couple of years. I still talk with him fairly regularly. So
okay, so yeah, it's different when you have that connection. Like I know, like Kayla, it's probably pretty easy to say Nate because we have that connection whenever we talk to him, or like I would say Calvin just because I've seen him in so many other situations, right? So it's even though I have lots of other favorites, they would probably make the list just because of that different connection, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Now the next one is, if you had do you have a favorite Esks regular season game? So you take the playoffs out of it, but just a regular season game that meant something to you.
I think it would be probably a game in Winnipeg. I made a trip out to Winnipeg in early October in 2015.
Oh, nice.
And it was the Sean White 53-yarder with no time on the clock.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Yeah. I blew my voice out in the best possible way at that game. It was dead silent in that building, and you could probably hear me clear across the province.
As it should be. That's outstanding. Now, I know that we talked about on the YouTube Live your Mike Pringle outfit, where you've got the jersey and the pants and the whole bit. So I'm sure that's your prized possession as far as Eskimos memorabilia. But do you have something that would be a close second?
Ooh, a close second. There's a few.
Okay.
Yeah. How do I pick a close second? I think I got a Patrick Kabongo, the 50 season, or not 50 season, sorry, the like retro throwback, old school gold color.
Yeah.
I got Patrick Kabongo's helmet, which I think is probably one of my favorites in my collection.
Oh, that's a nice pick. That's a very nice pick. All right. And then last one, the one that we've talked about a couple of times, is if you had to pick one play out of Eskimos history that just totally stands out to you when we say pick an Eskimos play, what's the play that you'd pick?
It's got to be that Sean White 53-yarder. I think,
yeah.
It was leading up to it. I mean, there were so many missed kicks in that game. I mean, I think I have butcher's name, but Hiralahu.
Yeah,
I think he missed something like 5 kicks that game. And coming down and it just being there live, hanging out with my brother. It was his birthday the next day, so that's why we made the trip out. But just something about that kick, it kind of made you feel like there was something special about that team. So it still, stands out to me big time.
Oh man, that is awesome. I love it. I love it. It's outstanding. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for joining us to be part of the show this week and joining us for the YouTube Live as well. Tell everyone where they might be able to find you on Twitter and things so that we can continue to kind of connect with our football family.
Really, it is only Twitter. I don't really hang out anywhere else too much. It's at Nubian1, and I think I've said this every other time. I have no idea what it means. I just stole it from my older brother when I was a kid, so I'm stuck with it.
It you know what? It sounds very Mandalorian, so we're just going to say that's what it is. Did you hear Kayla's excitement over that? That was good.
I saw the expression too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that's dope.
All right, Kayla, where does everybody find you?
My main channel on Twitter is at Duchess Lombardi, and my second, should I say channel?
You did.
Account.
Yes.
Account. I'm not YouTube special. My second one is at Esks Empire Photo.
Perfect. I'm glad there was 2 takes. Otherwise, I'd be worried you were not okay. All right. Superfan Mike, where does everybody find you?
Oh, you need to change it to at Duchess Mojito. You can find me at 56 Parkies, and then the history, including the ultimate depth chart, is at Esks History.
Perfect. And of course, you can find me at Freepalicious and the show at Esk Empire Pod. I do want to say thanks again to Pay It Forward with Football, as they had us on for their first Inside the Red Zone, which is a Zoom chat. And we had a great time chatting there. And actually, that was the first time we were able to kind of get back and see Kayla. So it was kind of a nice memory for me as well. So, but thanks to Quentin and Samantha. And, I should send another shout out actually to Quentin, because he actually drove by and dropped off a bunch of balloons and stuff for Riley on his birthday, and just just great people. I had so many people like Derek Mapstone drove by and honked, and they went around a couple of times for Riley, and it was very, very cool that all these people were doing that. So I want to send an extra thank you to those people for sure. As I said earlier in the show, make sure you are looking out for those hoodies from JR Sports. You can go to renfrofootball.com, or you can check out his Instagram, which I think is JR_sports. And you can message to get some of the hoodies on there. They look amazing, so I would highly recommend that. Of course, make sure you check out all of the great shows on the Alberta Podcast Network at albertapodcastnetwork.com, and find all of our social channels at eskempire.ca. We will be back in a couple of weeks, and I am working on a new guest to join us for that time. So until that time, for Chad, Commissioner Kayla, and Superfan Mike, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you in 2 weeks. Stay safe and get your votes in.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.
Hey, I'm Tara McCarthy. I work at CBC Edmonton, and there's a lot of things that happen in this city any given week. So we thought, how about we boil it down to some of those top stories, the ones that make you think, or the ones that maybe even make you laugh, maybe they make you cringe. So we're putting together a new podcast called The Loop. Check it out weekly through CBC Edmonton. The Loop, you might be wondering, okay, what's this all about? Well, it is literally about keeping you in the loop. More importantly, it's all about going behind the scenes. All sorts of details, I see it every day in the newsroom, don't actually make it into those compact radio and television pieces that you see and that you hear. So we thought we'll take stories like these, and we're going to find out more. We're going to talk to the reporters about some of the things like how they even found out about this stuff. We'll talk a little bit about everything. Politics, we'll throw some arts in there, community, of course. It's about all things Edmonton. Because there's always more to tell. There's always more to the story. I've been in Edmonton for about a year, and I see stories just constantly change. They ebb and flow. I'm learning new things about the city all the time. And maybe you've been here for decades, but there's always new things that we can uncover. So we want to talk about those stories right here on The Loop. Stay in the loop with us, our new weekly CBC Edmonton podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, or more importantly, through your CBC Listen app. I feel like I have something in my tooth.
Thank God it's a podcast.